Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Jay Bailey Podcast, the Jay Bailey Internet Hour, brought to you live right here from my one room Hilton, my one room shack here in East Tennessee on Facebook, live on Facebook. This this title is because of the new movie Bohemian Rhapsody. So usually, when I write, I I don't think of titles first. I usually say what I'm going to say, or I write what I'm going to write, and then I slap a title on it later. So, you know, but I got to thinking, you know, about Queen, about the band, about some of their songs, and they really had some good songs. Um, yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm planning on going to see it soon. So, one of my favorite songs by Queen is Somebody to Love. Uh, you know, can anyone find? Okay, whatever. I can't sing, but plus I'm sick. I kind of have like a cold or a flu going on. But one of my favorite songs by them is Somebody to Love. I always liked that song. It had a lot of personality, had a lot of creativity. Freddie Mercury had a lot of creativity. You know, um, he wasn't a depressed person. Depressed people just really just bum me out sometimes, man. You know, but so I seen the release of the movie, and it's good because Hollywood is so like stuck in this political correctness nowadays. So Hollywood's kind of been in a slump. They got to follow these mysterious rules, and a lot of the actors are also jesters for the king. Entertainers have always been jesters in the king's court. If you look back to Shakespeare, if you look back to history, actors and entertainers have always been intertwined with politics. Um, they've always been in the king's court. Ever since the jesters, the days of the king's courts, you had the jesters, and the jesters were the only ones who were allowed to question the king, because the jesters were kind of like comedians. The jesters were kind of like modern day entertainers. And so Hollywood has kind of been in a slump because Hollywood has got these mysterious rules, and they've kind of not had any good movies come out lately. So it's good that there are some good movies coming out. One of them is Bohemian Rhapsody, which is a new movie because I've never seen a movie about Queen. So I'm really looking forward to the movie. So I wrote a piece on my website. It'll be out tomorrow. So if you guys want to go to jbales.com, check it out, read it. If you want to write an article, hit me up on here. You can write an article on it. It's a new blog that I'm starting. I'm going to try to turn it into a magazine and get some sponsors where we talk about different topics, different things that are happening throughout society. I talk about the hive mind a lot. I love the hive mind because, we live in such a bizarre time. We live in a time where people text, they don't really communicate face to face anymore. Everything's really fast paced. You know, everybody's kind of stuck in their own minds, in their own routine. And so when you're stuck in a routine, when there's nothing evident, when there's nothing that's occurring, when your life is that mundane or your life is that structured, you get all these mental problems breaking out. So you have bipolar, depression, all this stuff breaking out. And that has a lot to do with the hive mind because we live in a very structured society, and people, whether they know it or not, are falling into this trap, of how we communicate. We communicate through the phone, we communicate through texts. Friendships are very cheap nowadays, right? So you can, a lot of women have like 3,000 friends, 3,000 followers, and they interact cheaply, right? And men too, more flamboyant men do. And that's a very feminine act, you know. But so it's not necessarily women, but it is a feminine act. And so you have all these friends who are not really your friends, you know. And so Facebook's whole business model is artificial. So I'm trying to change that. We're gonna make Facebook like TV. Facebook is gonna be a spot for entertainers, for artists, for communicators, for people who want podcasts, radio podcasts. And I'm looking to get a hold of Mark Zuckerberg. I'm going to say, Mark, listen, you need some entertainment on your channel, because that's really all Facebook is. It's just a channel, right? Except it's a social network. So, and that's why they're getting into TV and entertainment and stuff like that, because they need something more. Facebook really has been on a decline the past couple years, and so they're trying to get into entertainment. And so, now is the greatest time for entertainers, for people who want to get into the entertainment industry, to use Facebook to create content, to entertain people, because Facebook is declining, and all Facebook is really is a television channel. That's all Facebook really is, except it's on the internet, but it's all networking. It's all networking, just like the History Channel is networking, Discovery Channel's networking, ABC, CBS. So Facebook really needs something different. And so I think what in the next couple years, you're going to see all kinds of people, um, getting their entertainment through other means, Facebook being one of them. So now has never been a better time to do stuff like this, to write for the creative mind, the creative side of society, not necessarily the sciences, but the arts, right? So if you're a writer, if you're a podcaster, if you're a musician, now is a great time to get into that and doing stuff like this on Facebook, because it's free. It doesn't cost any money. So, and you get the word out to whatever business you're into. Entrepreneurship, if you want to work for yourself, now is a great time to live. So, anyway, let me get back on track. So, in the spirit of Freddie Mercury, with the new Bohemian Rhapsody coming out, um, I like to share you some words from myself, with an article that I just came up with on the fly. And I never really listened to Queen a lot, but one of my favorite songs by Queen was Somebody to Love. Now, let me go ahead and explain what that song really means for me, for humankind in general. So, you know, in the spirit of everything Queen, with the release of Bohemian Rhapsody, I would like to share my thoughts of one of my favorite Queen songs, Somebody to Love. But this isn't your typical history lesson or dramatic literary piece or true story. No, no, no. This is my critique on one of the most important parts in moments in the name of the human experience. After all, men built skyscrapers, I would argue, in the name of love, in the name of human connection, to find themselves worthy of a woman's love. Right? So men have done all this extraordinary things. Well, why have they done that? Well, I would argue in the name of love. That's why they've done it, right? So the woman would choose them, right? That's what drives men, right? For the most part. Not just humans, but just the male species in general. So, you have the woman in in the Shakespearean times, the Shakespearean plays. You have the prince, the handsome prince who, or several princes who would serenade the woman on the balcony, serenade the princess, atop the balcony or rooftop, just for a chance at that woman's love, right? And so men have done some incredible things in the search for somebody to love, right? So, and that's the whole part of human connection. That's the whole part of the human experience, right? It's not something you can necessarily just write down on a piece of paper, you know. But that is what drives the human species. That is what drives human life to continue, is somebody to love, right? So, in the main riff of the song is, can anybody find me somebody to love, right? Freddie says that throughout the song, you know, and it repeats several times. And so it's anyway, so let me get back to the article. But we thirst and we crave only to find ourselves lost and unfulfilled, yearning. People yearn, right, for the unknown, right? They yearn for the human connection, which is not something that you can buy. It's not something you can go to Walmart and buy on sale for 50% off, right? We thirst and we crave only to find ourselves yet unfulfilled. So, yes, the human connection. The human connection is something that is not written or talked very much about, but it is very true in throughout society. So we thirst and we crave only to find ourselves still unfulfilled for something that may or may not happen, or perhaps our biggest fears, that we will never find anybody to love, right? So that's one of the biggest human fears, right? Never finding your way in life, right? Never having somebody to love, never having human connection, you know? And so one of the key lines in Freddie's song is, I work so hard every day of my life. I work till I ache in my bones. But at the end of the day, I take home my pay. Down on my knees and I pray. And then, of course, the song goes, Lord, somebody, 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 can anybody find me? Okay. A painter, a sculptor without a canvas, right? So the problem is that it's not that you're not loved. The problem is that you have nobody to love yourself, right? You have nobody to share your own experiences with. You have nobody. It's like a sculptor without any clay, right? Um, you have no, your human beings are always trying to share their most inner thoughts, and again, that's what I would argue is drives the whole human experience. So, the world would be a much colder and darker place if there was nobody to love, right? But the world is already that. The world is already a cold place. The world is already a dark place. You know, where's the color? Where's the enchantment? Where's the excitement that one strives to be, that one needs to be? Well, most of that you get out of love. Love for someone, love for something, whether it be an object, right? Whether it be a hobby, whether it be a passion, whether it be your work. So you always are trying to find someone or something to love, you know, in the name of human connection, because the world is such a dark, cold place. You need an escape. You need a balance. Otherwise, you'll have despair. You'll have isolation. Now, that's another problem with today's society, is that we judge people by their money, by artificial things that in the end doesn't matter anyway, right? So the rich man, the rich man, if he treated everybody bad, if he treated everybody terrible throughout his entire life, but he had a lot of money, he had a lot of wealth, and it bought a lot of cars, and it bought a lot of houses, and it bought a lot of girlfriends, but at the end of the day, he didn't treat people right. He's going to die alone, right? Goes back to that old biblical verse. It is easier to uh, go through the eye of a needle, right, than to get to heaven. Um, I think that was in the New Testament, something like that. Love brings out the most vulnerable parts of our soul, the most unique, colorful, and youthful parts of our soul. But it also leaves you vulnerable, right? Very vulnerable. So love is like a youthful thing. Love is a young person's thing, right? Um, it tells us that true love only comes once, really, if ever, for those lucky enough to find it. And for those lucky enough to find it, they cherish that experience and keep it with them wherever they may go. So, for those who are lucky enough to have close relationships, to experience good things, right? This is all done in the name of love, right? Because what do you have besides love? On the other spectrum, you have hate. And the world is a hateful place. The world is a cold place. And so, if you don't have balance, then you're going to get swept up in that. And so, for thousands and thousands of years, people have sought ways to escape that cold and dark and lonely and isolated place. And so, they've used different mechanisms, whether it be religion, whether it be in it, objects, whether it be their work, whether it be their talent, whether it be their creativity. Human beings will always seek refuge in love, right? And that's what drives the human heart. That's what drives the human experience. On our hands and knees, looking above in hope and brilliance, a light and warmth glows in our hearts. Love brings out the most vulnerable parts of our soul, the most unique, colorful, and youthful. It tells us that true love only comes once, if ever, and those lucky enough to find it cherish the experience and keep it with them wherever they go. For those who are bold enough to reject the notion of love, now this is important. So, for those who reject that notion, or maybe they've rejected something in their lives, right? Find themselves regretting it later on. And how did they let that moment slip away? Why did they do that, right? So regret. Regret is a very common emotion in the human experience. Most people's regrets come from things that they didn't do, come from things that they missed or they could have done, um, you know. And so then they suffer and wonder, you know. That's very common. And they carry that pain. They carry that pain with them. And it's evident. You can see it when you go out. And it is too late to go back. Maybe, maybe not. The human experience, love, is not necessarily handed down, is not easily teachable. It's not something you just teach in a classroom. Maybe it is, I don't know. But I know they don't teach it. Life lessons that one must find out only through knowledge and understanding, through attendance, through wisdom. The notion of love is as old as the stories in the Bible itself. Before the time of Solomon and his many wives, before the time David seduced Bathsheba in the garden, convince her to lay down with him. The notion of love is what makes the world seem complete. It's what makes you or I seem adequate. And without it, we are simply alone. We are simply objects with no blood, no spirit. For without love, there is no life and there is no experience. There is nothing. So, Neil Armstrong said when he went to the moon, he said, it was so dark, it was so lonely in space, in the vast, dark corridor of space. And he spoke of that. And one of his quotes, one of his many quotes, it is like a withering flower that has been thrust into loneliness and emptiness. The emptiness that is space, a place where there is nothing to support human life, nothing above or beyond or throughout. There is no love, only blackness, only emptiness, and only death. And so too at the throe of the human heart, after prolonged isolation and desperation, when a man's situation can no longer improve and the world loses its color and meaning, then then you have problems. It's when the word hope has no meaning and becomes nothing more than just a word. When the chains of despair are realized and a man's soul would rather die than go on, death becomes the most meaningful way to convey one's message of isolation, regret, and one's infinite sadness. So, that I would argue the absence of love is responsible for the many sufferings in the world because that is the human experience. So, anyway, that is some of my article that I decided to write. It'll be up on my website later. You guys can go there, check it out. You guys can write an article as well. I'm gonna hope to get some products. I'm gonna try to build an audience. If you guys have any questions, if you guys want to share, go to my website jbales.com. If you want to write a piece, if you want to write an article, let me know. We'll get on there. You can write an article, and I'm hoping to get a couple people together and write, maybe get some products in store. I'm emailing several people from Nashville, one from New York, um, And so if you guys have any questions, let me know. Like the video, send a thumbs up. Let me know you approve of the content. If you don't approve of the content, let me know what's wrong with it and I'll try to change it. Hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.